And now for something completely machinima. Tracy Harwood. So I've done a little bit of digging around and I've discovered.
Ricky Grove. Fog comes in on little cat feet.
Phil Rice. This is the best film that I've seen all year and maybe ever.
Damien Valentine. Use the machinima, Luke. Hello, and welcome to another episode of An Out for Something Completely Machinima. This week, Ricky is playing Elden Ring again, and we won't be seeing him because he's busy fighting monsters and other stuff in the game. But I am here with Phil Rice and
Hello.
Tracy Harwood.
Hello.
So we'll be discussing the various machinima news and gaming-related subjects that we've picked up upon this month. And Tracy, you go first.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I've another packed month even for me. I picked up some really interesting projects. I'll start with those. The first one was a GTA 5 zombie movie called Survive by Gabriel Films. It's a couple of years old, but I thought it was really interesting because we don't very often see zombie films made in GTA 5. In fact, we don't really see all that many zombie films, but guess what? We've got a zombie film this month to go through as well. So that's quite interesting. So yeah, I'll put a link to that one and check that one out. Another project that I picked up on was Paul Trillo's Cuco, I think it's pronounced, which is a love letter to Los Angeles. Now, Trillo, he's a multimedia artist and a director. And this one has been created in 2D and AI. It's not really technically machinima at all, but it's an absolutely beautiful piece of work. It's quite, I think I'd describe it as kaleidoscopic in its color and form, and it's really worth watching how he's melded the streets together to create this really interesting view of Los Angeles from his perspective. I really enjoyed it. I could watch it all day. It's just so beautifully mesmerizing in how it's portraying the city. And then another one that I picked up on, we talked last month about neural viz. Well, this last month, neural viz has released episode 485, Pog Quarto even, of their Tigg Talk. I don't think I've seen anything quite so funny for really some time. This one's all about tariffs, and I thoroughly recommend it should you want an alternative perspective to the current political dogma about tariffs. It's brilliant. It's very, very watchable.
What an interesting testament that is.
Yes.
An interesting advantage to his process of the fact that his production process must be so efficient that he can pivot and basically work in commentary on something very, very current.
Yes. Yeah.
If it was taking him a long time to produce stuff because when you're producing content like that, it starts with the writing, right? And then he's got to perform the voices and then do all the animation and stuff. And the fact that he could put something like this together so quickly.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, tariffs have been kind of on the horizon of political talk for probably half a year now, but still, it's pretty quick.
Yes.
And I think it's there's something to be said for that, because a lot of production processes, even machinima ones, even ones that are, quick compared to traditional methods, you can't really react that quickly because by the time you get it made, no one's talking about it anymore, you know?
Well,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, pretty cool that whatever that process is, which we're in the middle of studying right now here at the show. So we'll have more info on that hopefully very soon.
Yeah.
I think South Park is the only sort of professional um, level animation that's able to turn around things that quickly. I think it
Right.
was
And they've
when
got a quick
yeah,
production process. Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was when Disney bought Star Wars, the Lucasfilm, they were able to produce an episode that week about it. Within I think 2 days, they put something together, and it was a good episode. It wasn't like
Sure.
they'd thrown something together; it was terrible. They made it something good with it. So, I admire that kind of speed and creativity that if you can put something together that quickly. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to be challenging enough to do that even on a like here in the States, it's Saturday Night Live is a weekly sketch comedy, mostly sketch comedy show on Saturdays, and they're known for commenting on news that happened just that week. And that's already impressive but it takes quite a team, quite a large and very well-paid team that writes that stuff, and then you've got this whole team of actors and stuff like that. That's one thing, but for an independent platform like this to pull that off it's quite something. So
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed this one, and I know you guys did as well. So, yeah, definitely check that one out. Then I also wanted to highlight Anomidae, um, whose latest venture is also quite interesting. Now, you remember we covered his weird mystery Halo series.
Halo,
Um,
or was it
oh,
wasn't he the one that did Half-Life 2?
Half-Life. Yes, I beg your
Yeah,
pardon. Yeah,
like
Half-Life.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, okay, so we covered that previously. Well, this time, this is a video that he's made about his justification for making a game. And it's probably one of the most interesting explainer videos that I've seen for some time. I guess looking at that and reflecting on that Half-Life series that he put together, you can kind of see where the narrative arc connects. I think it's an interesting one. So another link coming there. Um, Ben Grucy also sent me another interesting World of Warcraft documentary. This one is made by Platinum WoW, and it tells actually a much more in-depth history from some of the early years of World of Warcraft, including a few links than the one that we reviewed last month, actually. There's some cracking excerpts in it, including interviews with people like Paul Marino. Um, and some of those I'd never actually seen. So it's a really interesting documentary. I'll put a link to that. Check it out, definitely, if you're interested in World of Warcraft and those early days. Um, and then the last project that I want to just sort of mention, which I picked up from somebody I follow on X, is a GTA 6, what I'd call a mAIchinima. So it's a machinima made with AI, really, using Cursor and Claude Sonnet 3.7. It's a real fun short. There's no story arc that I can see. It's just kind of random content. But I guess if you're sitting back and waiting for GTA 6 to come out, this one will probably itch a scratch for you. Scratch an itch even for you, whilst you wait for the real thing to come out. So it's an interesting attempt, I think. Yeah, so they're my projects. Then I wanted to talk about a few GenAI updates. First of all, I found quite an interesting conversational AI voice synthesizer. This one's called Sesame, and I'll put a link to that one. I think it's primarily targeting people that create chatbots, but at some level, it also looks like it could be an interesting generator for content as well. Um, possibly, possibly extending a little bit of what 11 Labs might do. 11 Labs then also launched its actor mode, where you can use your own voice to direct the delivery of scripts and narrations spoken by its AI voices. And there's a really interesting show and tell video, which I'll put a link to as well. So you're basically directing yourself, which is, we talked a little bit about that a couple of months ago, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting because they've had a voice synthesis feature for quite some time. So I haven't watched this video on actor mode. I'm not sure what's different about that, but I'll be exploring that for sure.
Yeah, I think it's basically around training your own voice.
Hmm.
Interestingly, we'll see what it does. I mean, you're the only one I know that actually really uses it, Phil. So it'll be interesting to see what you do with it. Um, then Runway has released Gen 4, which enables you to quite precisely generate consistent characters, locations, and objects across different scenes. I'm sure that will enhance how people use that kind of tool. And probably along with other tools, might lead to more kind of creative content, not least because also a tool that launched, I don't even know how long ago this was now because I can't keep up with the debate around it. ChatGPT's 4.0 image generator. I want to say, was it last week or the week before? I can't remember.
It's one or the other. Yeah, it's
One
very
or the
recent.
other. Yeah. Okay. So we followed that at work for a few days, and I tested it out. I was very interested to see that it was able to create words correctly spelled, which is a first for one of these tools, as far as I can see. It also has the capability to accurately represent connections between objects in images, and apparently up to about 20 different relationships can be represented in images. So it's creating more complex images, but more accurately represented, which I think is an interesting development. However, what almost immediately kicked off then was I suppose, the obligatory backlash. And this one is to do with Studio Ghibli becoming a bit of a meme for creators. I'd say within hours of it launching. And, within 24, 48 hours, I guess, the studio had already sought legal advice on taking action against OpenAI over it. Kind of interestingly, because I was in there following it so closely, I think I can share the post that seemed to start it all off. So I'll do that so you can kind of check it out. But yeah,
Is that the one on the post on X by
it is.
PJ Ace?
That's it. That's correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So although I've not seen that it's gone anywhere subsequently, so I think it was like a week of heat and then it's all died down again for the moment. But then, there's so many other things that have launched in the last week. It's yeah, tracking it all is quite tricky. One so I don't actually follow them all or I try not to follow them all, but I try to look for the ones that I think are most interesting. One that I found really interesting was this one called DSO, which is a method for aligning 3D generators with simulation feedback for what they describe as physical soundness. And basically, it's a model that can more reliably generate 3D assets that are what they describe as stable under gravity and faithful to the conditioning images, meaning they don't fall over so easily. And and actually that in turns mean they can also be used for 3D printing, which I think is another aspect that's quite interesting in the way that these tools are being developed. So that one I thought was particularly worth following, that one. Then we also had a bit of a discussion, Phil, you might want to come in on this one as well. There was a recamming tool launched called Recammaster. I've not seen a recam AI that's a dedicated recamming tool actually launched before, although, as you quite rightly said, it's a feature that's included in many other tools. And basically, this is, you can feed in a video file and then, output from it all different kinds of perspectives on that image as if it was a 3D asset that you.
Yeah. So you've got like Photoshop. One of the first ways that and frankly, the most useful way that it incorporated AI was generative fill.
Yeah.
So if you have an image and you need to expand it out or whatever, and it can fill it in, with something that fits. Leonardo AI did that as well. These are all with still images. Now, Runway and a couple of the other tools, but Runway is the one that I've personally seen it. It will do what this thing is claiming to do, which is, I don't know. Do you remember the what was that? What was that AI tool that was used for where that kind of now famous shot of someone dancing as they go out to be on stage, and someone
Oh,
had substituted it in to look like the Joker?
yeah. AI
You know
Walker,
what I'm
that
talking
that
about, yeah?
was. It was
Yeah,
the Joker. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's along the same lines, but this is, instead of substituting a character in it, it's swiveling around to look from other angles and using on the fly generative fill to fill in what might be seen if the camera turns and sees a scene from other angles, which essentially is recamming, I guess, except that of course it's not,
Hmm.
you know an actual recam like in a video game, or well, in real life it'd be impossible. But in a video game, you're actually literally changing the perspective and seeing what really is behind them.
Yeah.
This is using generative fill to accomplish that. And yeah, Runway has been doing that. I don't know if it's intentionally or if it's because you can run the same generation source, and sometimes it will do it and sometimes it won't. So it's almost like what do they call those? Like a hallucination almost.
Yeah.
So I think what Recammaster is out to do is to harness that and to gain control of it and stabilize it and make the results a little bit more refined, a little bit more consistent. I'm going to include, and I'll show some. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see some examples. I did some examples. I actually happened to be doing some examples messing around with Runway, and got some of those results I'm talking about. And then I came over to our planning board and saw Tracy mention this tool. I thought, what a coincidence. I was just doing this. Not intentionally, but just Runway was just spitting these out, these recams. And the quality of them is all over the place. Like some
Yeah.
of them are really weird and don't make any sense at all. And sometimes they'll completely change style in the middle of the turn. It's really weird. So I'm sure that they've observed that same thing and thought, well, boy, if we could ever get control of that,
Yeah.
in the same way that Runway, along the way, one of the things that Runway enabled you to do was to have some control over the way the camera moves as it generates video from an image.
Yeah.
You can tell
Yeah.
it, do you want it to zoom in or zoom out or pan left and right or things like that. And this is more of a recam would imply like almost a 360 or a 360 turn and keeping things stable and consistent.
I forget the
So,
name of the technique off the top of my head. Where you go into a studio with 360 cameras around you and you film
oh
in
yeah,
that.
yeah. There was a real famous instance of that done for it was Michael Jordan, basketball player, going up for this big dunk, and
Yeah.
they took that. It has something to do with the same technologies that were originally pioneered by the bullet cam guys in the
Yes.
Matrix. It's a bunch of still cameras that take images on a timed delay, and then they stitch them together to make video.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We've
and
got one of those
that's
studios at work. I can't.
oh
It's
wow, really?
really
Yeah.
irritating that I can't remember what
They,
the name of the system is off the top of my head. I want
Yeah,
to say
it does have a proprietary name, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Probably
I,
named after whoever created it.
there was about a decade ago, there's a team that had one of these, and they would go to comic conventions in London. And so people would get there in their costumes and they'd do a pose,
Oh
and like
wow.
a fighting pose or something, and they'd do the spin round thing.
Very
And
cool.
yeah, it was fun to do that. And they actually got Ray Park, who's the actor who played Darth Maul in the Phantom Menace, to go in it, and he had a lightsaber, and so he started leaping in the air and
Oh,
doing it. I
wow.
got to watch him do that, and it was just so much fun. And then to see the end results of him doing that in slow motion, that was really stunning.
I bet. I bet.
Volumetric capture is what you call it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Volumetric capture.
Yeah.
But
So basically what this Recammaster tool I think is trying to do is, okay, let's harness let's replicate a technique like that that's done in real world, but do it virtually with this generative fill
exactly.
technology. It's intriguing for sure. Um, you
Yeah,
know, I can see I can right away see potential for abuse of it, but also I can see it as being kind of a lifesaver for if there's a studio who's, working on these hundreds of millions of dollars films and a shot didn't turn out right, that they can use that to save it. So it's interesting that there's some real commercial possibilities for some of this stuff,
yeah,
and also it also opens up some interesting doors for amateurs as well. So
it does. And I think if you can do it, do create in real time, although I didn't see a lot of evidence that that's what you could do with it. But if you can create in real time, that's one of the big challenges, I think, with volumetric capture, is being able to do that in real time without too much lag. Because obviously
yeah, I'm
you're
not sure
looking at a
we're there yet.
massively, well, I'm not sure we are either, but that
Yeah,
seemed to me a way of cutting down potential processing time by using a tool like this rather than these quite complex, multicam systems that enable
oh,
you to switch.
very expensive systems. Yeah.
But also very expensive in terms of processing capability to push it
Hmm.
out in real time. So I
Hmm.
don't know. That to me is an interesting one as well,
Sure.
for a number of other reasons. And then finally, also another interesting one is an AI assisted vtubing tool. Um, I think I'm not sure what this one's called off the top of my head. I think it's called WarpTuber. And this one allows you to animate character images, mapping your facial expressions and movements to them in real time. Now, we've seen a little bit of this over the years on YouTube, with streamers, putting avatars on as basically like makeup, really. Um, but it's kind of interesting to see that this is now also a developing area for ever more complex content generation.
Sure. There
Um,
are a couple tools on Steam, both made by the same company. Um, Bear with me a second. I'll look up what they're called.
I think I
Um,
have one of them. I can't remember what it's called either.
yeah, I'm sure we
I
talked
think
about
I
one in the
think the
past.
latest version of it is called Animes.
Okay.
Right.
I think, yeah, Animes, and Facerig was the original one.
Ah, yeah, that's it. I had Facerig.
And I'm not sure that either of them are being very actively. Well, it looks like Animes is updated as of a month ago or 2 months ago. So that's the more recent product. But a lot of people really preferred the way that Facerig worked, and it's still available in the store. But those are they're pretty interesting. It's
Hmm.
customizing your avatar that you're going to animate is last I looked at it, quite challenging.
Yeah.
Like it's not very friendly at all.
Right. Okay.
And honestly, what it's easy to hindsight's 2020, but what they should have done is partnered with Reallusion,
Hmm.
to make it something that incorporated with Character Creator 4. That would be a logical thing to do, because then the possibilities are endless. You rig it up. If you can get it to be rigged up in Character Creator 4, which there's plenty of pipelines for people to do that, then just bring it right over to Animes. It benefits them both. That they didn't do that. So the
Yet.
process of actually getting from, let's say, a Character Creator 4 rigged avatar into this is just like, whoa, way too much.
Yeah.
Unless you were going to be using this in a regular professional capacity, it's just more work than it's worth. And
Hmm.
but it's an interesting tech for sure. And yeah, I'm sure that it's going to continue to be something of interest.
Mm.
I've
I
got a
definitely,
friend.
go on, sorry.
I was gonna say I've got a friend who does VTubing. I have no idea what kind of software she uses when she's streaming, but her character is two-dimensional, and I know that she's changed it a few times. But what she's done is she's commissioned an artist every time she wants to change it
Is
to
it kind
draw.
of anime styled, Damien?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
There
so
is something out there, and I don't know what it's called either, but I've seen others that using that as well.
yeah, but I watched it. Obviously, being interested in machinima and animation, when she was doing it, I watched the character very closely to try and figure out how it works. And obviously, it's done in pieces. So, like the head, and then you've got the eye, each eye separate, and the mouth and the nose
Yeah,
with expressions. And
almost
then,
like Moho or character or what's the reallusion version of Moho? Cartoon
uh,
animator.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
where it
then
is, it's pieces. Yeah.
yeah, like the upper arm is a different piece, and so on. And then the outfit's all different pieces as well because she had like really long hair that kind of floated around, and so you could see where this. Like, if you know what you're looking for, you can see the segments. So
Sure.
when she moves her head, it kind of moves with her. So it was
Yeah.
quite impressive to watch. But I have
It's
no
neat, and
idea.
that's much more processor. Or it's much more resource friendly to animate 2D and parts like that
Yeah,
than to try and 3D render in real time.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's with these NVIDIA cards nowadays, that's not really probably much of an issue. But yeah, it's pretty sophisticated, and you can have some really neat stylized looks using that.
Mm. Well, speaking of Reallusion, I and other projects actually, Apple Art Studios. Well, I was immediately drawn to the fact that it was Apple Arts, although turns out it's nothing to do with Apple, and is in fact an Indian company, which has launched what it's called an animation Shopee. Which basically looks like quite an intriguing potential competitor, I would say, to Reallusion's character animations. They have launched their in-house animation library, which is designed to provide ready-to-use animation files for what they describe as game developers, filmmakers, and content creators. Um, and in fact, they say they are the leading motion capture studio offering custom motion capture services and pre-built animation solutions in India today. So yeah, there is a direct competitor, I would say, to Reallusion on the market. I don't know how it competes price-wise, but I'd be really interested to see how that one unfolds over time because, of course, uh, it's an Indian studio that's recently bought Tippett Studios, isn't it? So yeah, there's some quite interesting competition shaping up in this kind of arena, I think. And then finally, the other thing that I wanted to just touch on is this really interesting video that's been created by Bellular News that talks about how Steam works. And it's basically a review of the algorithmic problems that Steam perpetuates. And it's quite a good articulation, I think, of the inequity of these customization algorithms. It's the same problem that we see with YouTube too. And ultimately, it's all about the share of revenue they derive from promoting only those games or products that actually make money so that they can get a cut of it. Now, we've said many times now, there needs to be another distribution system for indie creator content. And this is yet another example of how indie creators always fall foul of these so-called distribution systems, the only ones really that exist in the market today. So yeah, I'll put a link to that. You can check that out so you can see just how biased these systems really are. Very disappointing, I have to say. But of course, they're not they're not like the Internet Archive, if you like. They're not free at all. But I think if you really wanted to understand just how they do work, it's worth keeping an eye on these kinds of videos and folks like this guy making these kinds of exposés, really. It's interesting to see it. That's it for me. I've got nothing else to talk about this month. Quite a lot, I think, having said that.
So I got a few things. a few days ago from when we are recording, Nintendo had the big reveal of the Switch 2, which is the successor to the Switch console. I don't know exactly what machinima potential this has got, but we have seen, since we've been doing the show, a few films made with the Nintendo Switch, which is a portable device. And the Switch 2 is also going to have portable potential. You can hook it up to the TV and play it that way if you want, but you can pull it out and you can put it into like handheld mode. Um, it's obviously a more powerful device, and it can run games that are more graphic intensive than the Switch can. Probably won't be able to compete too much with the modern uh, the modern Xbox or PlayStations or a high-end PC, but if you wanted a device that you can play games on the go, um, it's there, and it'd be interesting to see if people do use it for machinima because it did have the Switch had a record mode, so you could record some of your gameplay, and you'd have the video files on your device, which you would then have to transfer to whatever you want to do the editing on. I imagine the Switch 2 is going to have a similar feature. It
Yeah, I
wasn't
would think so.
discussed. Yeah. It wasn't discussed in the direct, but it's not a big thing to talk about. So I'll be interested to see what happens with that.
Mm.
Next thing, a little bit of backstory before I go into it. I went to a comic convention, no surprise there, a few weeks ago. And there were two things that happened. One was I went into the main room where they had the stage and people doing talks. I caught the end of this studio who are doing a demonstration of motion capture using, I don't know what suit they were using because I didn't get the introduction to it, but they had one guy was there explaining it and someone else was wearing the suit and they had a laptop running the software. And so he was showing how the calibration works and he's doing some demonstrations on stage, which is being projected onto the screen behind so you could see the result immediately. Unfortunately, I didn't catch the name of the studio or the name of these guys, and I didn't see them again because I sat down and I was saying to my friends, that's what I do with Heir to the Empire by Machinima. And so they were interested in that. But then
You don't think it was Rococo?
I don't know. I really, I was too far away to have a good look at it.
Was it tethered or was it just
Again, too far away to
wireless?
see.
Okay.
I wanted to get up and catch these guys to chat with them, but they disappeared. So I never saw them again to talk to them. But I thought it was interesting that they'd gone to this convention. It was only a small thing, a small event, but they were doing this motion capture on stage. And so I wanted to mention that. And the other thing I saw is it's an Australian comedian called John Robertson, and he has this show called Dark Room, which he performs live on stage. And it's based on 80s text-based adventure games. So,
Hey,
yeah. Phil, I think you would really appreciate the show. And he's got some on YouTube, so you can see some of his performances. So what he does is he comes out in costume, and he's got the game projected behind. And what he does is he picks people out of the audience to play it. And the idea is they wake up in a dark room. They have to find the light switch, rescue their family, and escape from the room. Now, the way it's rigged is you can't even survive long enough to find the light switch. Pretty much every decision you make either goes in a circle or it results in death. And everyone he's got this table set up. He calls it the Table of Wonders. And everyone who plays wins a prize. And it's usually some piece of junk that he's got. Like when I saw him, he'd gone to the local supermarket and he bought things like a bag of pasta and some Minecraft socks and stuff like that. So he's just giving that random junk to people. So the show is hilarious. He swears a lot, so it's not necessarily suitable for kids, although that does seem to happen. Kids do go in and watch this, and he questions the parents about that. Um, and so it's not necessarily machinima related, but it kind of is because it's performed in real time, but on stage.
it's really fascinating. I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, I
me
highly
too.
recommend it. Just don't be shocked by the language he uses.
Okay.
So I thought this is something I want to recommend because if you get a chance to watch it, live, it's worth it. And he gets people riled up. So when someone dies, you have to shout, "You die, you die, you die." And he wants the whole audience to shout it at the person that has just been playing. So yeah, that's something I wanted to bring up as a good piece of fun.
Fascinating.
Uh, Next thing is the next round of RTX 50 series graphics cards supposed to be announced this month. Um, as of recording, they haven't been, but they should be coming in the next few weeks. So if you're looking for the it's the 5060 Ti and just the regular 5060. I don't know what the prices or anything like that going to be. But that's due to be announced on the 15th of April, unless that's changed since I posted it in the news.
Well, probably they're going to be a lot more expensive than they were last week.
Yeah, probably. Um, so, if you're in the market for a new RTX card and the 5090s and 5080s are a bit out of your price range, well, maybe this will be cheaper, but who knows, like you just said, Tracy. Next one is a game called inZOI has been released. This is a Sims competitor. The developers say it isn't, but when you look at it, it looks like it
It
is.
clearly is.
Yeah,
It clearly is. Yeah.
it looks a lot more photorealistic than The Sims.
Significantly more.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm really intrigued. I'm not interested in the gameplay at all. Um, but it's an intriguing looking engine.
Yeah,
So I'm going to be watching it for, I assume at some point Steam always does sales on this stuff, right? So
yeah,
that and Starfield will both be in my list to
Check
Good.
out.
watch. Last time there was a Starfield sale, it lasted like 2 days.
Ah,
So like I got the notice. I thought, oh cool, I bookmarked it. I'll take care of that this weekend. And I came and it was already back to full price. But anyway, yeah.
well,
inZOI looks interesting. You had mentioned earlier, someone had mentioned earlier just in this episode about we were talking about animes and Facerig
yeah,
and real-time capture of face. And inZOI has that built in to where you can actually, first of all, they've got a pipeline to help you basically do the equivalent of in character creator, reallusion's character creator. It's what's that plugin called, Damien? I'm blanking. Headshot,
yeah, that's it.
where you can take a photograph or a series of photographs and create a skin essentially for the character. And inZOI has it basically supports the idea of bringing your own face to be your Zoi, your sim. But then also to have real-time control over the facial expression and whatnot of it. Now, I don't know how that actually works into the gameplay, other than just it's neat to look at. And I also don't. The only time I've ever seen it done in a video, they were doing it on the character creation screen. But I assume that you can do it while playing the game as well. I don't know. It's interesting. I think it's the first game that I can think of that has that real-time face expression capture built into a game. Like it's designed for that, like an actual game, not just a utility, but an actual game. So it's an interesting one to watch, I think. If they do have any kind of camera control in it, and that I don't know yet either.
I don't
But
know
if
either
they
because I haven't had a
it
chance to.
seems like a natural game to create machinima in, just because it's really good looking renders. Like it's better looking renders than anything I've ever seen out of The Sims 4.
Oh yeah,
But The Sims 4 is what, 10 years old now? So,
Yeah.
of course. But I think even if it doesn't perform as well as The Sims as far as sales go, it seems to raise the bar. And I think that ultimately that competition is a good thing. Because I assume there's going to be another installation in the Sims franchise at some point. They're very good at keeping very mum about it, but I have to think they're working on that. And hopefully this didn't scare the heck out of them, Like what if this is like so beyond what they're doing and make them retool? I don't know.
Well, the last I heard about The Sims was there was going to be a Sims 5, but they decided to put all their effort into creating more content for 4. But maybe now this is out there thinking, well, maybe we should try and compete with this because this looks so much better than our
It
10-year-old
does
game.
really, yeah, the
Mm.
comparison is not particularly favorable. Now, there are people who just like the aesthetic of The Sims 4, and so to them that doesn't matter, they like the look of it, and I get that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't deny it's they've done some things well. I
Oh,
think we
yeah,
can.
definitely.
I'm
Uh,
sure that there's plenty of things that The Sims has, or that you can do in The Sims that you can't in this, and maybe it doesn't stack up in all regards, but visually, yeah, wow, looks really good.
I mean, with The Sims 4, you've got so many content packs to try and compete with that, of course, The Sims is going to have all that content that inZOI just cannot compete with because inZOI is a brand new game. That's not a fault for inZOI. It's just the reality of
Right.
a new game versus a game that's had a decade's worth of expansion packs.
Yeah.
And I think that was the thinking behind The Sims 5 was that why they decided to not focus on that for a while was because when they released Sims 5, people are going to say, yeah, but it hasn't got all this other stuff that we're used to. Because no matter what they choose, they can't put everything in. And they obviously want to keep some of that for expansion packs to sell for The Sims 5.
Right.
Um, but
I'm
I've seen
sure inZOI probably has a similar business plan
probably, yeah.
for content packs and stuff. But what will be nice is if they will kind of I think an innovation that would be nice to this genre of game would be official tools and pipelines for bringing in your own content. And I realize that to do that, it's to the detriment of their business interests, technically, right? The easier it is for people to create their own clothing and furniture and all that, then the less incentive there is to buy the packs. But
But then
maybe inZOI will be approaching it a little differently. It'd be nice to see that.
I think the answer to that would be instead of just having an expansion pack that's new, like clothes and stuff, new features
Yes,
that
that is the answer.
modders, yeah,
Absolutely.
modders can't do that.
Premium content, content that would be really hard for the average end user to make
Yeah.
because it's so good. And then, yeah, new actual gameplay features. That's the answer.
Or a market where they're taking a
Yeah,
cut.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah.
Frankly, they would be dumb not to do that.
Mm.
Although Bethesda have done that with Starfield, and that's not been so well received as from the fans.
Well, you're right, but I think part of that is because for very long in the Bethesda universe, wasn't it? It wasn't done that way, right? It was
Yeah.
just open and free, and so late in the game they decide, okay, we want to get ourselves plugged in here, and I understand their reason for wanting to do so, but that's part of the pushback is because there was this other previous way of doing things to compare it to. Maybe within inZOI, with it being kind of a fresh start, they won't have to worry as much about that,
And I
They
guess
can just
I guess it's a different
forge
type of
new
game
ground.
as well. So
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who owns inZOI? Is that
I
a
don't
new,
remember the name of the company. It's South Korea based, I believe.
is it?
Yeah.
And Zoe
says-
means what? Is that life in Zoe? Does that mean
Hmm.
is that like Zoe?
I don't know,
It's
but
not.
the
It's not the
characters are called
name.
Zois.
Hmm.
Zoe is the name Zoe of Greek origin means life,
Yeah.
Okay.
but that's apparently a Greek root. So
Hmm.
I don't know if it means something different
Interesting.
but you figure they had to come up with some short, simple name that wasn't Sim out of trouble, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's
Oh,
it's
that's
got the
also
potential to be catchy. Yeah.
philosophical, is it? Was it
Right. Right.
Baudrillard and all that, or
Sure.
Yeah.
Bourdieu
So,
and
Well, and they sell it as a
Volcra.
life simulator, so yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
just to answer your question, Tracy, I just looked up the Steam page. It says developer inZOI Studio and publisher is Crafton Inc. I don't know if the publisher owns it or if they're just publishing it.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reviews are very positive, so it must be very well received.
looking forward to hearing a bit more about this. I think we talked about this one a little bit last year.
Yeah, there was a demo which I tried, but it wasn't very optimized, so my computer couldn't run it very
Right,
well.
Right,
right.
right.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Let's Plays for it, and the reviews that I've seen are overwhelmingly positive. So
Mm.
yeah, I think it's been a decent launch for him, and I'm excited to see what people make with it. And some of the complaints are related to camera controls, but I don't know if, without having played with it myself, I don't know if it's just that they don't know how to use it or if it really is limited. How modifiable that will be, or is this game moddable in ways that The Sims 4 might not be? Those are all questions that will really, I think, determine
Mm.
the
Uh,
direction of things there.
some of
But
some of those complaints could be the camera controls are fine, it's just not the same as The Sims 4, which people are
oh
used
yeah,
to.
absolutely,
Mm.
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah,
Because people still complain about The Sims 4 camera controls and not the same as The Sims 3, which apparently had the best camera controls in the whole series. So,
right.
yeah. All right, so my last piece of news, it was an article I saw in The Guardian, which is a UK newspaper, and it's called Blockbusted: Why Homemade Minecraft Movies Are the Real Hits. And it's talking about the Minecraft movie that has just been released. So The Guardian is quite well known for not liking popular movies. Like they will review them badly, no matter how well they're doing in the cinemas or how popular they end up being. But what they've been doing is looking up machinima films. Now, they don't actually mention the word machinima in the article that, as far as I noticed, but what they are looking at is people who have made movies out of Minecraft. And they seem to be more impressed by those than the actual movie itself, which I thought, well, whoever wrote this article is probably not the target audience for the Minecraft movie, so that might be part of it. But I thought it was interesting that a mainstream newspaper here in the UK was looking at machinima films, and I thought I just want to share this article so people can have a read of it. And
Well, and uh, my my son and my daughter are my son especially is longtime Minecraft player. He's a Minecraft content creator, um, and is very plugged into that community. And he and some colleagues of his that I think probably have kind of a aspiration or dream for, one day making games like this. Uh, Mojang and Minecraft, Mojang, the company that, the developers that make it, they are a point of study for everyone. Everyone watches what they do.
hmm,
And it's very important to them to have an opinion on every change that's made to Minecraft. It's a thing. That's very much the opinion of, at least from the exposure that I've had to the Minecraft community through my kids. That's the opinion that's broadly out there amongst Minecrafters as well, is that if you'd asked them what would we want from a Minecraft movie in the cinema, it would be something made to look like it was made in Minecraft, not this weird corporate CGI version of things and the known actors being a part of it, not important to them at all. Now,
yeah.
as I shared with both of you, my son actually went and saw the Minecraft movie opening weekend and said it was the most fun that he'd ever had in the cinema that he can ever remember. But it had nothing to do with whether or not the movie was any good. It was it was loaded with a bunch of people his age, and he is the Minecraft generation, grew up with it. And the movie was very, very cleverly made use of memes to kind of be the beat points of this movie. And the audience just loved it. And apparently that's happening not just at my son's university, but with younger people as well. And that is really what this movie is. The splash that it's making is this very unusual, high energy community experience that I think the only thing that we could compare it to would be I heard similar stuff about the Mario movie, but the Mario movie we were still kind of coming the movie theaters hadn't really made their full recovery from COVID habits, and so it didn't really, it just didn't attract the same level of energy. Now, numbers wise, it did exceptionally well, but I went and saw the Minecraft movie with them in the theater, and there was nothing like what he described for this. But this, he described something that sounded to me like the Rocky Horror Picture Show for the 21st century. This participatory, everyone dressed with their Minecraft shirts and cheering at certain points, and maybe even saying certain lines from the trailer that have been memed since Jack Black's appearance in the trailer came about. They were, it was like a chorus going along with it and stuff. Just, it's fascinating. We talked quite a bit about it before the show today, so it's definitely a movie to watch. It's a cultural phenomenon, but in a different way than, say, the Barbie movie was. The Barbie movie was very, very popular amongst Gen Z in particular. But the Barbie movie was different because they were trying to do something different with that movie, I feel like. They were trying to actually package a message for that generation in there, Greta Gerwig, who is the director, they had very clear ideas that they wanted to communicate, and I think arguably they succeeded in doing so. Whether you agree with the ideas or not, they did communicate them very well. From what I understand about the Minecraft movie, there doesn't seem to have been any such effort. It's very plastic. It's very just kind of empty fun. But maybe that's what Gen Z wanted right now or something, because they seem to have loved it. And right now it's on track. By the time this episode's out, the real numbers will be out, but it's on track to perhaps be the biggest opening for a video game related movie ever. And the prior king of that was the Mario movie about a year ago, right? That broke the record at that time. It looks like Minecraft is going to either come really close to that or maybe even surpass it. And yet it just doesn't have, even the Mario movie had some kind of a little bit of substance to it, I guess. And this seems like it has less of that this is a cotton candy type of thing, and yet they love it. So yeah, I think it's worthy of study. Why did this work? So remains to be seen.
Well, I'm glad people are enjoying it. I'm not sure.
I am too.
Yeah, I'm not
Oh,
sure
I was so happy.
me,
He called, when my son calls me, he's away at university. So when he calls just to tell me how much fun he had, and he didn't expect to, like he and his friends bought a whole row in the theater to go see this movie with the explicit intention of going there to make fun of it. Because they were convinced this movie's going to be a stinker. It's going to be awful. Let's go laugh at it. Let's go so we can all just have a, laugh at the expense of this movie about how awful it is. And it turns out that they were probably right about the movie. Like in terms of what they actually thought of the movie, that is what they thought of the movie. But in spite of that, this quasi-religious experience happened and they had the best time ever. So yeah, man, that's weird. That's very strange.
Yeah.
I can't think of a modern comparison to that. So like I said, I think it's worthy of some study of what's going on there.
Oh, no doubt we'll find out in due course.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure I've seen it at some point, but it's not a film that necessarily makes me want to rush out to the cinema to go and see it.
No. I mean, I would have loved to go with him, but that's really about just being with him, not.
Yeah.
If he wanted to go see On Golden Pond, I would go watch that with him. So, yeah. No one in the audience even knows what On Golden Pond is. I'm glad Tracy does.
That's a generational thing too.
Yes. I'm old. I am old. I'll say that just like Jack Black did. I am Steve. That's how we tie that in.
That wraps up my news.
Yeah, I think that's everything.
Yeah. So,
Cool.
yeah, thank you for everyone for listening. Hope you found our news interesting. Let us know if you've got any comments about any of the things we talked about. Um, if you know anything more about inZOI or any of the other stories, please let us know. We'll be watching that game in particular to see what people do with it. So for myself, Damon Valentine, Tracy Harwood, and Phil Rice, we will see you next week.